A blast from my past. I'm going to try something a bit different today. I haven't included any music or music videos in my own videos, and a couple of reasons for that. One is that the technical issues, I didn't really know how to do it. Well, I've come up with a solution to that problem. It's probably not the most elegant solution, but it seems to work okay. We won't need to go into the details. The second and perhaps trickier reason is the whole copyright issue. Now, when you read YouTube's rules about copyright, they seem quite strict and quite restrictive, and yet everywhere you see YouTube videos made by people discussing music, they play the music, they show the entire video of that music sometimes or part of the video, and they don't seem to run into any difficulties. So I thought it was about time that I bit the bullet and had a go myself. The song I've picked to start with is a song by David Bowie called Queen Bitch. It came out in 1971 on the Hunky Dory album, but it didn't really get much airplay until a year or so later when Bowie released his next album, which was Ziggy Stardust, which was the one which garnered him all the attention and began to rocket him up to superstardom. And once he'd got our attention, then the radio started looking back at his earlier catalogue and started to play his earlier music, including songs like Space Oddity, which actually came out in 1969 and really was not a significant hit at all at the time. But it was re-released in 1973 on the back of Bowie's popularity and, of course, has become an absolute classic. Well, the same was true of many of the tracks on Hunky Dory, songs like Life on Mars and Changes, and this one, Queen Bitch. Now, I was only 15 years old at the time that I heard this song on the radio. I didn't really know much about David Bowie, who he was. I knew the song Starman from Ziggy Stardust, which appealed to me because it had that kind of science fiction theme, which I liked. But then I heard this song, Queen Bitch, and I didn't even know it was David Bowie at first. But the title, of course, immediately caught the attention of a 15-year-old Queen Bitch. Wow, and they're playing that on the radio. And it immediately pulled me in. At that stage, I was still looking for some kind of musical identity for myself, if you like, looking for some way to hang my hat. And that's when I found it. And David Bowie became my first kind of pop idol, if you like. So without further ado, here is the song by David Bowie, Queen Bitch. And there immediately is that fantastic riff that pulled me in straight away. And I suppose we have Mick Ronson, who was Bowie's guitarist at the time, to thank for that. Oh yeah. I'm up on the 11th floor and I'm watching the cruisers below. Now, at that time, in the early 70s, David Bowie was visiting New York and getting involved with the music and art scene there with people like the Velvet Underground and Andy Warhol. And you can feel some of the influence of the Velvet Underground in the music here. And he was probably staying in the Chelsea Hotel. So there is the narrator on the 11th floor of the Chelsea Hotel looking down on the street at all the cruisers. I'm up on the 11th floor and I'm watching the cruisers below. It's down on the street and it's trying hard to force us to flow. Now, the he is referring to the narrator's love interest. And there's been speculation about who that might have been, and generally it's thought that it was probably Lou Reed. If it was Lou Reed, then he didn't seem particularly offended by this because later on he could be seen on stage singing this song with David Bowie, and both of them exchanging very meaningful looks. Now, Sister Flo is an interesting character. It becomes evident from the description later that she's actually a transvestite prostitute, very flamboyant. Now, when I was listening to this as a 15-year-old, one, I could barely hear what David Bowie was saying. I couldn't really make out the words. And secondly, I really didn't know what was going on in this song at all. And I suspect that probably the radio stations didn't either, or they might not have played it.
He's down on the street and he's trying hard to pull Sister Flo. Oh, my heart's in the basement, my weekend's at an all-time low. 'Cause she's hoping to score, so I can't see her letting him go. Walk out of her heart, walk out of her mind. Oh, not her, she's so swishy in her satin and tan, in her frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh God, I could do better than that.
So here is this flamboyant Sister Flo, who, although the narrator is obviously jealous of her, he clearly admires her too. But I love what David Bowie, or producer here, does with his vocals, this layering of Bowie's vocals, which is very distinctive of Bowie's work in the early 70s. And the harmonies are slightly discordant, and there's a slight sort of panicky edge to the way he's delivering the vocal. And indeed, one of the features of this song is the way he uses his vocal to express the different emotions of the narrator.
She's an old-time ambassador, sweet-talking, night-walking games. Oh, and she's known in the darkest clubs for pushing ahead of the dames. If she says she can't do it, then she can't do it. She don't make false claims.
Here again, you can see how the narrator actually admires this character, Sister Flo. And I love the way Bowie puts that little laugh in his voice as he's singing.
She says she can't do it, then she can't do it. She don't make false claims. But she's a queen, and such a queen, such a laughter is sucked in the brains. Now she's leading them on, and she'll lay it right down. Yes, she's leading them on, and she'll lay it right down. And it could have been me, yes, it could have been me. Why didn't I say, why didn't I say? Now, she's so swishy in her satin and tan, in her frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh, but I could do better than that.
So in that section, Bowie's vocals become more intense. They rise in volume, and there's even more discordance in the harmonies there, illustrating the sense of panic and despair that the narrator has at that point.
In the frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh, but I could do better than that. So I lay down a while and I gaze at my hotel wall. Oh, the cold is so cold, it don't feel like no bed at all. Yeah, I lay down a while, look at my hotel wall. And he's down on the street, so I throw both his bags down the hall.
So it becomes evident at this point that the narrator and the man had been living together in the same room, at least temporarily.
Down on the street, so I throw both his bags down the hall. And I'm phoning a cab, 'cause my stomach feels small. There's a taste in my mouth. And
In that little section there of the song, those of you who know the Killers' song Mr. Brightside will recognize that that little passage there has influenced Mr. Brightside and a similar passage in that song. And Brandon Flowers is quite open about that influence.
and I'm phoning a cab, 'cause my stomach feels small. There's a taste in my mouth, and it don't taste at all. It could have been me, oh yeah, it could have been me. Why didn't I say, why didn't I say? No, she's so swishy in her satin and tan, in her frock coat and bibbidi-bobbidi hat. Oh, kind of like
So there it is, Queen Bitch by David Bowie from his Hunky Dory album in 1971. Now, in many ways, it's a very simply structured song. That riff sort of pounds its way through the song. But there are all sorts of different highlights, and particularly the way Bowie uses his vocals, but the intensity of the song rises at particular points as well to emphasize the emotion behind what's going on. So there it was, a song that greatly influenced my tastes at the time in the early 70s when I was 15 years old. If I'd known what it meant at the time, I would have probably liked it even more.